What's going on, guys? It's Jonathan Rears with the Baseline. We got Oshae Brissett here. Just gonna ask you a few questions. Taking it all the way back. You were growing up in Canada, right when SGA was coming out of Canada and the basketball scene was like on the rise. So can you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, I feel like back then it was like you said on the rise. We had a couple guys who had made it, big at that time. Kind of guys who were older than us: Andrew Wiggins, Jamal Murray, Anthony Bennett, Dylan Brooks. But my age, being the guys who were able to watch those guys and kind of, I don't want to say fix mistakes, but also like see what they did and try to do it better. I feel like it's only getting better for guys in Canada, seeing you know people who grew up in the same city as them, went to the same school. We have an MVP, and probably going to run it back again this year. Born and raised in Hamilton, Ontario, which is like 20 minutes from where I live. So it's pretty cool to see the growth of Canadian basketball.
Yeah, Canadian basketball is on the rise, as you said. SGA MVP, going to do it again this year. But then going over to college, playing for such a legendary coach like Jim Boeheim, what was that like?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Syracuse was always a dream school for me. My dad and I talked about going to Syracuse, at a young age. So, once I got that offer, I knew I wanted to go immediately. And visiting and seeing the history, in the school and all the guys who came out of the school, it's something that I just wanted to do. Coach Boeheim's a great coach, and I loved my time there. Learned a lot from him, and I'm grateful for that. Being one of the players that got to play for, like you said, a legendary coach. It was amazing.
And you did go undrafted, but you ended up signing with your hometown in Toronto. What was that experience and like actually playing in front of your home crowd?
Yeah, I mean, it was a blessing. I remember when I first got there, a lot of the guys that were also in the NBA with me at the time from Canada, they were like, "Yo, this is a dream." Everyone grows up wanting to play for the Raptors. Archer's on the Raptors now, but my time there, I was a two-way, so I got to play in Mississauga, where I'm actually born and raised, and play for the Raptors. And couldn't get any better than that. It was amazing.
And you did play in the NBA 6 years. I'm from Boston. You brought us a chip. What was that experience like playing under Joe Mazzulla? There's so many conspiracies about the way he coaches. What was that experience like?
Man, I mean, that year, everyone always asks me like, why'd you like Boston so much? We obviously won, every single game, but the fans, the history of, the Boston Celtics putting on that jersey, our team, like everything about that year was just amazing. And like you said, Joe, he's a crazy guy, but his message work, and I feel like my time there is something that I'll cherish the rest of my life. Those guys, we built a bond, brotherhood. I still talk to them all the time, and it was fun. That was the best year of my life.
Definitely, it's special. Thanks for getting us that chip. But 6 years NBA, like we said, going overseas. This is your first year overseas. You decided to come over to Israel, playing for a legendary EuroLeague team like Maccabi Tel Aviv. What has that experience been like? Also off the court, what has it been like being in Israel?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to expect coming here. I feel like everyone was kind of, feeling the same thing. Back at home, you hear things, you see things, but I've talked to the coaches in the front office, and they explained to me how safe it is and how amazing it is. Obviously, I came down here wanting to see for myself, without just taking word of mouth, and I think that's what a lot of people have to start doing. Kind of putting all those stereotypes and things that you see aside, and just feeling for yourself. You gotta kind of put the ignorance away. I feel like there's no better experience than seeing it with your own eyes. And coming here, it's been nothing but eye opening and a breath of fresh air. Seeing all the life that goes on here and everyone that's so calm and just loving. Every single day of them being outside. I've met so many great people, made a lot of friendships. Um, and it's amazing, the life outside of basketball. Basketball itself is great. We're just super grateful that we have games coming back here in Tel Aviv, and I think that's what everyone's super excited for now. Just to see that side, like you said, the history and the legendary program that is Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Just because you mentioned it, a few years back before the war, Maccabi Tel Aviv had their home games in Tel Aviv, and they had an outstanding record. Having to play your home games over in Serbia, how difficult has that been?
It's been tough. It's been tough. The same amount of fans that are in this gym right now, the same amount of fans that we have in Serbia. It's quiet. The games are hard. It's hard to get excited for. No one likes to use excuses. I don't like to use excuses. Been a professional for 6 years, so it's basketball at the end of the day. But it is tough, and I feel like we kind of had the rougher end of the stick compared to a lot of other EuroLeague teams. Um, But now games are back, and we're excited. Whatever happens, happens. But we know that we have our fans behind us and our crowd behind us, and the games are going to be very exciting.
Taking it back to off the court, you're big with your photography and your videography. Coming overseas, being in Tel Aviv, what has that been like? Have you gotten more into it off the court?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so much to explore. There's so much to see. I still haven't seen anything. I've just stayed in the city, obviously, because we've been traveling a whole bunch, and basketball is my main focus. But now that we're gonna have more time, I'm so excited to explore, and that's one of the things I was excited for. Just seeing different life and experiencing new things, new religions, new people, and and yeah, I'm just excited to keep going with it.
Before we leave you, any advice you have for maybe an NBA player who wants to start their overseas career?
Uh, just knowing that NBA. That's not all it is. You're not just an NBA player. You're not just a basketball player. I feel like these things are a lot more than just basketball. It's really about experiences. I could tell my kids, my daughter, that I've been here. I've played through things, and I've seen things that a lot of people, you know, don't even know is out there. And I think that's big. We're more than just basketball players, and I think that people have to understand that. Getting to the NBA is a dream for sure. Chase your dreams, but like I said, there's a lot more to that. And being out here, I could say that I did it. I could say that I met amazing people, and I learned new languages. I learned new words. I know a little bit of Hebrew now. Like I could say those things where people back at home they can't. And I feel like that alone is a great life experience, and that's what it's all about.
Favorite Hebrew word?
Manishma.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
Awesome.
that one.
Appreciate you,
Thank
Oshae.
you, my guy. I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
you.